Back in 2014, Olympia Yarger, a single mother fighting just to keep the bills paid, decided to open her very first farm. But she wasn't raising fish, chickens, or cattle. She was raising maggots. When word got around, plenty of people told her she had lost her mind. A few simply found the whole thing revolting. Yet out of that tiny operation, she grew a bizarre idea into a serious biotech business. Beneath the lights, larvae wriggle inside stacked rearing trays. Those trays sit inside units roughly the size of ordinary shipping containers. A single container can house as many as 15 million larvae, the whole thing run by some seriously advanced robotics. They devour 5 tons of food waste a day, though Olympia never viewed that as an expense at all. And yes, the Australian government genuinely signed off on this. It's already operating in Australia's capital, and before long, similar containers could show up in plenty of other places, chewing through waste right across the country. So what's the actual goal behind all of it? To understand why Australia needs millions of larvae, you have to look at a far bigger problem swelling behind its cities: waste. Here's something you might not realize. In the time it takes you to watch this documentary, Australia has already dumped 867 tons of rubbish into red-lidded bins. Australia is a rich, modern nation sitting among the world's major economies. But according to Australia's Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment, and Water, the country throws out roughly 7.6 million tons of food annually. That works out to over 300 kilograms for every person and racks up more than 36.6 billion Australian dollars in losses. It might be wilted vegetables at the supermarket, day-old bread, uneaten fried chicken, bruised fruit, or meals that never made it to the people who genuinely needed them. Yet End Food Waste Australia points out that roughly 70% of all that discarded food was still perfectly edible. And of course, this isn't only a story about waste. There's a second issue, and it matters even more. Most people assume the damage comes only from factories or heavy industry. In Sydney, food scraps account for around 40% of the rubbish stream. Once organic material is buried in landfill, it decomposes and releases methane, a greenhouse gas 30 times stronger. The situation gets worse still, because Greater Sydney, home to 66% of the state's population, has completely exhausted its landfill capacity. That leaves councils paying enormous sums to truck rubbish to other cities. Personally, though, I'd argue they're just shifting the problem elsewhere rather than actually fixing it. On top of that, Australia is under a different kind of pressure. The United Nations has set a goal that before 2030, Australia has to slash 50 to 70% of its organic waste and stop sending it to landfill entirely, which is exactly why the country has been pushed to find something quicker, cleaner, and smarter. And at precisely that moment, the woman who would reshape the future of Australian waste management stepped forward: Olympia Yarger. To be fair, she wasn't a scientist or a corporate executive. Olympia was someone who loved farming, had grown up close to military life through her family, had carried a lot of personal strain as a single mom, and kept circling one question: how could agriculture become cheaper, more sustainable, and less wasteful? Her first thought was to start a farm, but in farming, feeding animals eats your budget alive. Forbes Australia quoted Olympia saying that roughly 70% of production costs trace back to feed. At 47, she landed on the idea of using black soldier fly larvae to consume waste. She started with a few hundred larvae in cheap plastic tubs stashed in the garage behind her house. Then things went sideways. Temperatures climbed, larvae died off in huge numbers, and the stench of rotting material became unbearable. After failure upon failure, in 2014, the biotech company GoTerra came into existence. The mockery didn't stop. Neighbors put together petitions against her because of the appalling smell drifting out of that back garage. Investors turned her down flat 48 separate times, convinced the concept was hopeless and a waste of everyone's time. It sounds simple enough in a sentence, but Olympia was pitching something most people found stomach-turning the first time they heard it. Investors doubted her. Locals couldn't take it seriously. A maggot farming company didn't exactly scream the future. She pushed on anyway. In spite of all of it, GoTerra showed that a properly engineered solution could work through mobile technology containers. And the cleverest part of her idea wasn't simply feeding rubbish to larvae. Rather than burning millions on logistics and pumping out pollution, hauling waste across long distances, this robotic system could be parked directly wherever the waste appeared, whether that's a shopping center or a dense urban district. Instead of waiting 12 weeks for material to break down, they only needed 12 days. Olympia has also explained that when food waste goes to landfill, every ton generates 1,700 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions in carbon dioxide equivalent. Feed that identical ton to insects, and you're left with just 35 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent. Even so, farming maggots still sounds alarming. So before we go further, let's clear something up. Black soldier flies are nothing like the house flies hovering over your dinner. The larval stage is the part that really counts. These larvae can put away twice their own body weight daily. They develop fast, and once they reach adulthood, they don't feed, don't bite, and don't even have the mouth parts that so many irritating fly species use. A single female lays somewhere around 500 eggs, and the larvae can reach up to 27 millimeters in length. The city of Sydney also notes that this species doesn't carry or transmit disease the way many other insects do. In fact, the larvae are capable of breaking down bacteria sitting in leftover food. So what's really going on inside these containers? Curious about the details? Even if you're not, I'm telling you anyway. We already know how the larvae come into the world, and like any product, they need harvesting at their peak stage. That's when they can eat the most waste. At 5 days old, they're transferred into the containers. Then they start feeding, though not quite the way you'd picture. Food waste arrives from supermarkets, housing estates, or businesses. First, machinery strips out everything larvae can't digest: plastic, cardboard, packaging, tangled up in the waste stream. The organic material is then milled into a slurry, soft, smooth, and far more consistent, before being pumped through to the larvae rearing zone. These containers are operated remotely and are even hooked up to the internet, though presumably not for watching YouTube. The system builds the ideal environment for the larvae, gathers data, and tracks everything to guarantee food arrives daily. Fortunately, nobody has to babysit individual larvae, since one shipping container holds between 10 and 15 million of them. Remember Olympia's early disasters? These aren't low-maintenance creatures. Too hot, too dry, not enough oxygen, or a feeding schedule that's slightly off, and the whole system falls apart. That's why GoTerra leans on sensors and automation to track temperature, humidity, airflow, waste volumes, and digestion conditions. Robots hold the environment steady so the larvae can work at full speed. And if you think the story wraps up once the larvae finish eating, it doesn't. What comes next is arguably more impressive. Across a cycle of roughly 10 to 12 days, the food waste doesn't just vanish. It gets converted into two products that flow straight back into the economy. The first is frass, the waste the larvae leave behind, which works as a soil conditioner or organic fertilizer. A 2022 scientific review of black soldier fly frass found that, depending on what the insects were fed, frass can hold key macronutrients, including nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. This natural fertilizer is loaded with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which makes it a brilliant choice for building up soil. So it's gathered and sold to whoever can use it: farmers, plant nurseries, pet shops, and aquaculture operators. One standout case comes from a partnership between Hyatt Regency Sydney, GoTerra, and Four Winds Vineyard in Murrumbateman. Frass generated from the hotel's food waste is trucked out to the vineyard to feed the vines. The vines draw up nutrients from the larval fertilizer, produce grapes, and those grapes are picked and turned into premium wine. That wine then comes back to be poured for guests at Hyatt Regency Sydney. And to prove this is an actual working project, rather than a marketing gimmick, the circular wine range was formally launched as the Circular Vintage Series. According to reliable voices in the wine industry, the series opened with a Shiraz in April 2026, with a Riesling lined up for release in September 2026. The second product is the fully grown larvae themselves. They can be processed into protein for livestock feed, aquaculture, or pet food. One of the biggest strengths of black soldier fly larvae is that they deliver far more than protein alone. A 2022 nutritional review reported that larvae and pupae contain roughly 32 to 53% protein and 18 to 33% fat, varying with the feed they're raised on, frequently beating conventional feed ingredients such as bran or soybean meal. A review from 2024 covering poultry nutrition likewise stressed that black soldier fly larvae have real potential to replace a share of traditional protein sources, thanks to their high digestibility and outstanding nutritional profile. Backed by an investment of $8 million Australian dollars from Tenacious Ventures and Mike Cannon-Brooks's Grok Ventures, GoTerra managed to build 6 full-scale robotic insect farms. Sydney is set to become the first location in New South Wales to trial larvae for processing food waste. And not merely waste picked up from shopping centers, but waste that has already accumulated in landfill. Under the plan, the insects will convert leftover food into core ingredients for feed production. For animals, obviously. Not in the sense that people will be eating whatever the larvae didn't finish. The City of Sydney and GoTerra are running a program together at a processing facility in Alexandria that will last 1 to 2 months, with the aim of handling up to 500 tons of food waste from the food scraps recycling service. More than 22,500 households can access that service. By March 2025, the first pilot in New South Wales had converted almost 90 tons of leftover food into around 19,000 kilograms of fertilizer and 6,000 kilograms of high-protein animal feed. Clover Moore, Sydney's Lord Mayor, has cautioned that the city's landfill capacity is vanishing fast, which means schemes like this are no longer just green window dressing for a nicer public image. They're becoming essential. Olympia Yarger described Alexandria as the 7th official site in GoTerra's network, a project built around processing household organic waste inside the city itself, getting ready for the New South Wales requirement to keep food waste out of landfill from July 2030. At Hyatt Regency Sydney, close to Darling Harbour, a 5-star hotel has also folded larvae into its own back-of-house operations. Below the hotel's polished public areas, a container-sized unit handles roughly 500 kilograms of kitchen food waste every day, including orange peel, watermelon rind, and other inedible scraps. General Manager Jane Lyons said there were early worries about odor, flies, and maggots, but since the system is completely sealed, none of it materialized. Once harvested, the larvae head to Hilltop's free-range farm to feed laying hens, and the eggs come back to be served at the hotel. Frass, that nutrient-dense insect waste, is also being trialed as fertilizer for the vineyard supplying the hotel's wine. By 2026, AgriFutures Australia described GoTerra's technology as having spread to 12 sites nationwide, including Melbourne Airport and Howard Smith Wharves in Brisbane. But scaling this up is anything but easy. Olympia has said the waste and agriculture sectors are widely viewed as sluggish and low-tech, and that raising money as an independent female founder was harder still. Because of that, GoTerra had to sprint from research into commercial rollout to demonstrate the model genuinely worked. Over on the other side of Australia, marine scientist Luke Wheat is walking a similar road with Arabella, concentrating on breeding black soldier flies and supplying eggs and young larvae to other businesses. He's pointed out that insects have been performing this job in ecosystems for millions of years, while humans are only now working out how to harness it. But he also cautioned that rearing insects at industrial scale is nothing like keeping a handful of chickens out the back. Every waste stream shifts product quality in its own way, and each phase, egg, larva, pupa, adult fly, demands tight control over climate and nutrition. So why not just tip the larvae straight into landfill and let them get on with it? Sounds straightforward, but in practice that approach would wreck the entire concept. Black soldier fly larvae aren't a magic army you can scatter over any rubbish heap to produce clean feed. They need steady conditions. Research into food waste treatment using BSF has found the ideal rearing temperature sits around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius, with relative humidity at 60 to 70% and substrate moisture around 52 to 70%. Out in an open landfill, temperature, humidity, and oxygen swing constantly. Too hot, too dry, or short on air, and the larvae either die or become far less effective. More worrying still, landfill holds more than spoiled vegetables. There's plastic, metal, chemicals, and pollutants in there too. A 2024 review warned that BSF larvae can accumulate heavy metals such as cadmium. Coming back to the project, GoTerra is drawing more attention now because it has arrived at the exact moment New South Wales starts tightening how organic waste gets handled. The NSW-EPA states that households must be given a FOGO service, collecting food organics and garden organics, before July 2030. For large businesses and organizations, the rules begin rolling out in stages from July 2026. That means food waste can no longer keep getting tossed into red-lidded bins and shipped straight to landfill the way it always was. Cities will need several solutions running at once: FOGO collection, composting, anaerobic digestion, and on-site treatment models like GoTerra's. So larvae containers might not become the headline solution overnight. But if FOGO laws expand widely, landfill costs climb, and cities need to treat waste nearer to where it's created, systems like GoTerra's could absolutely start showing up more often at supermarkets, hotels, residential developments, and waste processing facilities over the next few years. And don't assume Australia is the only country spotting the potential in these larvae. GoTerra is just one piece of a much bigger global wave, one that's converting organic waste and farm byproducts into protein, insect oil, and fertilizer. The reasoning is simple and frankly brutal. The world is wasting far too much food. UNEP reports that in 2022, humans produced roughly 1.05 billion tons of food waste, the equivalent of over 1 billion meals binned every single day. Food loss and food waste generate somewhere around 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, nearly 5 times what aviation produces. In France, black soldier fly larvae are being used too. The Washington Post described InnovaFeed's venture with Nestle as one of the largest insect farms on the planet, rearing around 10 billion black soldier fly larvae. That's not a few million in a single container. That's billions of living organisms inside an enormous industrial operation. They're fed byproducts from a neighboring grain processing plant, run through a cycle of roughly 14 days, then processed into protein and oil for livestock feed, pet food, and aquaculture. Only about 5% of the larvae are held back for breeding. The rest move into a new food chain. The Guardian also reported that InnovaFeed's site spans around 55,000 square meters and can turn out roughly 15,000 tons of protein a year, plus oil used across animal feed, pet food, and aquaculture. In the Netherlands, Protic stands out differently, upgrading low-value organic material into higher-value nutritional ingredients. The company uses black soldier flies to convert food waste into inputs for pet food, animal feed, crop care, and agriculture. Protix isn't selling a sensational maggot story. It's selling a less wasteful food system, where organic waste is lifted into protein, oil, and fertilizer. Which shows that in Europe, this model has moved beyond being an odd experiment. It's being standardized into commercial products. In the United Kingdom, Better Origin runs a model much closer to GoTerra's, packing insect farms into containers. EIT Food describes the company as using black soldier fly larvae to turn organic waste into aquaculture feed and fertilizer. The larvae can convert as much as 95% of organic waste into fat and protein within their own bodies. The Guardian has also written that Better Origin's X1 insect farms sit inside shipping containers, are managed by AI, and were once part of Morrison's carbon-neutral egg initiative. Chickens eat the insects, while the insects are raised on unsold fruit and vegetables from supermarkets. Put another way, an egg on a supermarket shelf can begin its life as the very produce that supermarket couldn't sell. It's a remarkably easy loop to follow. Unsold food feeds larvae, larvae feed chickens, chickens lay eggs, and the eggs go back to the supermarket. And here's something even more surprising. Vietnam has a major example too. Entebel, a Singapore-based company operating in Vietnam, opened a black soldier fly production plant in Ba Ria Vung Tau in 2023. Entebel calls it the largest insect protein factory in Asia, with capacity of roughly 10,000 tons of insect protein per year. The plant has 50 vertical rearing levels and relies on robots, sensors, and data analytics to push productivity higher. AgFunder News reported the facility was constructed in 12 months and generated around 150 jobs across production and operations. Mekong Capital also describes Entebel as producing protein, insect oil, and frass fertilizer for aquaculture, livestock, pet food, and agriculture. In the end, the story of Olympia Yarger and black soldier fly larvae isn't just a strange tale out of Australia. Looking ahead, will we keep throwing food out, burying it, and letting it churn out methane? Or will we figure out how to turn it back into a resource? As the global population climbs, demand for protein for fish, poultry, livestock, and people will keep climbing with it. Yet land, water, animal feed, and the climate are all straining. In that context, a tiny creature humans once found repulsive could become a brand new link in the chain, eating the food we abandon, producing fertilizer for the soil, and supplying protein back into the food system. Larvae obviously can't fix everything, but they do remind us of one uncomfortable truth. In nature, waste doesn't exist. Only humans built a system of producing, consuming, and then discarding. So what's your take? Is this a smart fix for the future? Or is it far too strange to sit inside a modern city? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're into strange but true stories about our world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and keep exploring alongside us.